And before I speak about tomorrow, I just want to speak a little bit like about today. So COVID-19 has been holding our breath, for the last 10 months nearly. And the crisis has shown us so many things where we really stand. Who really had pandemic plans? Did we ever actually know what a pandemic was? We were thinking and seeing companies that were well prepared. We saw others that were less prepared. We saw whether our digital infrastructure worked. We saw what happened in schools. We saw what happened at home. And we also kindly figured out that the health system that every country had in place could decide on who would survive and who wouldn't. And what was very clear that all of the structural deficits became imminent. For us personally, I think a lot of things were happening. We had times and families, where everyone was home, which was really stressful. We had others that lived alone. They were really feeling isolation. We couldn't visit our elder family members. And I think it had a huge impact on families. It had a huge impact, especially on women and mothers, because they still take a lot of the care work that we do in families and on many more. But despite that we are struggling still and that we were struggling so much, I think a lot of time also for creativity came up. New ideas. We actually, a lot of podcasts were getting launched. Virtual sessions like Forbes DACH was like launching the F15 session. And just to tell you a happy little secret, I will be part of that very soon. A lot of things came up and we lived through wonderful things. And the reflection, and those of you that think about leadership, they know that in order to become new ideas, in order to also become creative, in order to figure out what you want to do next, you need time to reflect on things. And the good thing is, I think with less traveling, and even though we're all missing seeing each other, we became more relaxed and therefore also more open to figure out what was really going on in the world and also more open for people to try out new things. Now we speak about vaccines and people are getting excited and soon everything will be back. And of course, we all hope for that. And of course, we all hope that we can get things under control. But we also have to realize that pandemics will hit us again. The climate change that is happening is going on. And when you speak to virologists and biologists, we also know that the closer we come to where wild animals live, the more highly likely also it will become that we are getting, another pandemic. So we have to keep that in mind. It will be over at some point with COVID-19, something else might come. But besides COVID, and even though sometimes when you watch the news, you think, is there nothing else happening in the world? It does. Climate change is still impacting us visibly. We had more storms and hurricanes in the Atlantic Ocean ever. We had more floodings like Asia and Guatemala going on. We had fires in California even worse than last year. And the geopolitical situation all around the world is remaining unstable. Just to mention a few, Hong Kong fighting for democracy, Belarus fighting for democracy. We have an increasing populism in Poland, in Hungary, in the United States. And we see that we are not sure about whether the idea of democracy, how have we always been living it and thinking about it in the Western world, will keep on going. And many of you might live here in Europe. We have to remember that also terrorist attacks like we had it in Nice or in Vienna just recently are not over. So if we want to live a free world and if we want to fight for democracy the way that we are thinking that, and if we want to hope for more justice, we need to continuously stand up for it. So we clearly see that things go well, but we also very clearly see what we need to improve. I believe that our future, so tomorrow, will only get better if we do something. By sitting around and waiting for others or someone else to make decisions and to take the chance, it will not happen. I am convinced that every one of us, we can drive change to really do a better tomorrow. So let me talk about society and societal injustice that we're having. The rich and the poor, it becomes even more dramatic. It's the poor people that will die from COVID, the rich that will survive. Social distancing, For so many countries in the world and for so many people, that was like kind of like, how should we actually do that? Equality, when it is gender equality, whether it's equality between races and so many more people with disabilities and without, it is not coming by its own. We need to constantly fight and we need to constantly stand up for it. And what I would like to have, I would like to have us to live in a world with more tolerance and more freedom to accept what people believe in, and that religion is a choice and doesn't really become an obstacle. And tolerance would help us so much more to actually have a friendly living together. And when it comes to, we all looked to the US and the election and we thought everything will be healing now. And we heard that this morning, that there's still a long way to go. Because guess what? Those of us most probably attending here, we have that idea of living in a very liberal world, highly educated, living a good life. But we need to understand that the middle class does not buy totally into our stories. So we need to think about like all of those people supporting Trump, supporting the AfD, the FPÖ, the PIS in Poland, whoever you name it. They have different dreams and they have different realities. So we need to develop stories that are embedding them as well and that they can connect to them. And I think this is very important that we do that. And it's also very important that we show that living in free democracies can still live that from a business perspective and from an economy perspective, we remain competitive. Because that must be our ultimate goal, that we are open for change, we're open for innovation, that we see what happens now in the world of digitization to make the best decisions for our countries, for our businesses, for our societies, and for economy. Digitization is something that we've been speaking about over the last years. There has hardly been any conference that wasn't called 4.0 or digital or digitization or anything. But when it comes to the infrastructure, when it comes to the decisions, and when it especially comes to the speed that we are applying to make it happen, at least in Europe, we lack. We lack a lot of speed. But we need to hurry, because if we want to define also how things should look in the world, if we want to define what artificial intelligence can bring for the future, how algorithms are coded, that we don't have the biases that we're living in the world now also replicated in the future, then we need to hurry up. And I think that demands a lot of flexibility and a lot of open mind also from ourselves. And there is one thing that I think every one of us needs to remember. The skills and the competences that we do have today are not enough for tomorrow. No matter who you are, no matter what I can do now. Tomorrow, maybe we'll still be okay, but the day after tomorrow, it's clear that I need to grab every opportunity to learn new things and to be open for change. And for companies and organizations, that also means that we need to provide opportunities for our employees, to provide them with solutions for upskilling or reskilling them, so that they also know that they will have a future in the digital world as well. So for me, embracing change is actually the best thing that we can do, to constantly learn new things and to constantly also look for some inspiration. For me, and some of you might know that, people are at the core of everything. No technology has ever been invented by someone else than a person. Everything that we can do, it matters who we are. We have seen now in the time of the distancing that it is so important to connect with people, and we are yawning to actually see each other again, to hug each other again, and to be together. So what I'm asking you for, and what my pledge is, like, think about what can you do to shape a better tomorrow? Because don't we all aspire to shape something that is bigger than ourselves? Thank you.